Welcome to the Florida Association of Community Corrections Conference being held in the Rosen Plaza Hotel in Orlando, Florida. This conference is being filmed in partnership with the Death or Prison podcast, now viewed on approximately 1.5 million electronic tablets distributed in prisons nationwide.
My name is Isabel Perez-Morina, and I'm the president of the Florida Association of Community Corrections, CEO of the Advocate Program in Miami, Florida, where we do misdemeanor probation. To my right is Tony Deaton. He's with Lake County Probation. And to my left, I have Mr. Frank Murphy, who is an all-star football former Tampa Bay Bucks. And so, today we're here at the Rosen in Orlando. We are before a live audience of basically probation officers across the state of Florida. And we're here to learn from Mr. Murphy's experience, to learn from his lived experience and his successes, and how we could do better as probation officers. So thank you, Mr. Murphy, for being here. Can I call you Frank?
Yes, that's fine.
Perfect. Well, Frank, what I'd like for you to do to paint a picture of your story is why don't you tell me where you're from and who raised you?
I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. Was raised by my mom and my dad. Being a Floridian, I really enjoy being outside. I love going outside, but a little bit about myself, going outside almost cost me my life, and I didn't know it. I was bullied at the age of 11. Our neighborhood got infested with drugs and things of that nature and crime. And I believe I was preyed upon because I was considered different, because I had two parents and things of that nature, and they always was there. So my mom just started letting me go outside, and when I got bullied, I ran home. I never forget, I ran home. I was probably like 9 or 10. I was right across the street playing basketball. And I got in my room, and I say, no one will ever try me like that again. From that day, I took a fake ID. You know what a fake ID is, a picture of you, but everything on there a lie. And I lived out that fake ID. From that day, I started carrying firearms. I started getting involved with selling drugs. I started getting involved in shootouts, robberies, and I found myself incarcerated at the age of 15. All my quote-unquote dreams of playing in the NFL that I would tell my family members all ended. So that's a little bit about me to start it off.
Thanks, Frank. So you mentioned that you got your first arrest at the age of 15. How did that affect you in school?
It really took school out of my system because there was no school where I was incarcerated because of they tried to put a pencil to the teacher's neck. So that canceled school the whole time I was there. So there was no school, no education. So my only education was what I learned, what I picked up inside. That became the definition behind my name, is what I seen behind bars. That's what raised me, the streets and also being incarcerated.
Tell us about when your first negative contact with law enforcement was and how that affected you.
Well, I was always told, and of course the media or my neighborhood, my environment always told me that officers was the bad guys, basically. But my first experience with the officer wasn't bad because I played Part 1 of football, and we had police officers that would volunteer their time to come up there and coach us because they believed in us. And I still talk to that police officer to this day. And I never forget, he told me something. He said, all you guys take a knee. It was our whole Part 1 team. And he said, some of y'all will be dead. Some of y'all will be incarcerated. Some of y'all will be on drugs. Some of y'all will be selling drugs. We laugh and come to find out that that whole group that he talked to found themselves on drugs, found themselves incarcerated. And that intrigued me to make me realize that I will not speak that over somebody else's life. And that caused me to go into a place where I can start organization so I can give back, so I can stop that cycle. So it affected me, what he said, because now all of us as kids, we begin to now notice that this possibly could be our life forever. But that police officer never left our side. He always was there to pick us up and drop us off. he always showed us love. So that love side really began to show me that it's a side of me that I did not know. And it changed my life at that moment.
You mentioned that you started your involvement with the justice system at age 15.
A lot earlier, I just didn't get caught yet.
Fair enough. Tell me about when you first got placed on probation.
Once I got incarcerated, I was facing about 15 years. And of course, I went to trial, and I never forget being in that cell. And I told my lawyer, I say, man, listen, I can just take these 5 years, already done one. And I never forget my mom, she say, no, you're not doing that. She say, God already told me what you was gonna become. And you're not finna alter that by making a bad decision. I want you to take it to trial. You will win. And I say, okay. And I begin to pray, and I say, God, I'm tired of you telling me what my mom see. Show me. And I never forget, I had a dream of me going to trial, and I won. So I woke up that day, we had our collect call. I called my attorney and said, I'm going to trial. He said, you sure? I said, I'm positive. We went to trial, and I won trial. From that day, I realized that it wasn't over, because they say for other charges, we're gonna put you on 5 years probation, time served. So I got 5 years probation. I met my probation officer. The first impression I got was, from my probation officer, I realized that this man can change my life, or he can put me right back in a place that I don't wanna be. So my life was in his hands. But one thing I can say about him, he didn't lord over me like I had friends on probation. And a lot of my friends would say, man, they're some of the worst people to work with. And I say, well, my probation officer was pretty cool, because my probation officer wanted to see me succeed. My probation officer was teaching me things when I would come visit him. My probation officer kept encouraging me, even though he didn't see a diamond, because there was no diamond, there was no chance of you seeing me going to the NFL and impacting the next generation with all these programs that I'm doing now. There was no diamond showing that I would ever win the President's Lifetime Achievement Award from President Barack Obama, and I just got chose also for the President's Lifetime Achievement Award from President Biden. Nobody's seen that. And for him to treat me the way he treat me, it made me feel different. It made me wanted to succeed. When I seen my friends with their probation officer, it made them hate. It made them feel like they still in the system, but they really not in the system. They not incarcerated. And I would say this to you guys, you have a diamond in your hand, every individual you come in contact with, and it's up to you to brush them off. It's up to you to shine that diamond. And sometimes you're the first person that comes in their life after they're incarcerated to get a different view of what life could be like. Or will you continue to lord over them in such a way where you have to feel like, this is it, I'm the boss, this is what's gonna happen. And now you putting that mindset, jail mindset, prison mindset right back over them. And so that was my experience with my probation officer. And I almost shed a tear, because I'm gonna find him. Just after this conversation today, I kind of forgot about him. I was like, appreciate it, boom, 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 moved on. I'm gonna find him so I can tell him how much he impacted my life.
Frank, you played under two legendary Tampa Bay Buccaneers coaches, Tony Dungy and John Gruden. They had very different temperaments and leadership styles. Tell us how your experience on probation prepared you to deal with different people.
Oh, that's a good question. Coach Tony Dungy is a mentor of mine, and we still talk today. He forwarded my book called The Man Behind the Helmet, and I'm so appreciative of that, because he don't forward books. He may write things in books and things of that nature. I remember asking him to forward my book, and he said, Frank, things happen, so I kind of knew where this was going. Maybe he couldn't do it. And I was like, well, thank you, Coach, it's okay. And he said, so you're not gonna send me a copy of it so I can read it? So I took a copy of it and emailed it to him, and he called back a couple of days later and said, I have to forward this book. And he said, man, you're being real in here. And I said, yeah, I just want to help as many youth as I can. And from that day, we grew a bond, and he's been there for me for a long time. He's been my mentor. But far as coaching styles, I remember getting there and I heard a lot about Coach Dungy and his character, but you know, I thought it was all media talk, how he's quiet, but I say behind closed doors, maybe he's gonna just go off on us when we make a mistake. Well, we had a bad game. And I say, oh, Coach Dungy finna give it to us. I know it. We got in the locker room, he was the same way, calm and collect. Hey, we going through this right here, but this is how we're gonna solve it, and this is what we're gonna do. And I was like, this is real character. So I learned character and integrity from Coach Dungy because he was a man that showed me day in and day out, consistently, he is the same way. No matter under pressure, no matter what negativity, he was the same way. So I began to follow him and watch him in the locker room. And I watched Derek Brooks in the locker room. And that helped me build character. But then also John Gruden, very good coach, man, but he's different. He motivates different. And he does a lot of yelling, screaming, and shouting, and a lot of other stuff comes out. But Chucky, I could never say anything negative about Chucky because he gave me an opportunity. He motivated me in a different way. He encouraged me in a different way. Very different styles, but so much respect for both of those coaches and what they accomplish. And I always appreciate the opportunity.
I want to fill everybody in to your experience going to school and getting to the NFL. So tell me about college and what happened there and how your experience with probation impacted that life.
Man, so I started out when I got out of jail at the age of, I think I was 16 because I did a year. And I went back to school. It was so foreign because kids knew, oh, he's the one that did this, or he's the one that they say did that. So when I got back to school, it was kind of odd, and I was on 5 years probation. When I got back to high school, I began to play sports and go back to playing sports, trying to fulfill my dream. I remember being incarcerated, and I would do all these push-ups and sit-ups. I would lift the mat, and everybody in there kind of know your charges. They kind of know similar, and they know you from the streets. So they begin to ask, like, why are you doing all these push-ups and sit-ups, man? I say, man, I'm going to the NFL. And they start laughing and say, man, do you know where you at? You in jail. I say, I know, but I'm going to the NFL. And when I got out, I started back playing ball for high school, and I only had 1 year left. I didn't have the grades because of being incarcerated. So I played that 1 year. I was an All-American. I was run up to Mr. Florida. I broke records in that 1 year. But the colleges didn't want to talk to me because of my record, and I was on probation. So I lost a lot of top scholarships, but it was one school, South Carolina, that stayed around and say, hey, we'll send you to a junior college because you have no grades. You on 5 years probation. I mean, son, if you understand back then, they didn't tolerate or have a lot of issues with taking players. They just didn't take players like me with a bad record. It's kind of different now because they made a system where they, you get in trouble, they can handle it. I went on to the college that took me to junior college, and when I got there, I got in trouble again. It's called residue. Residue followed me, and I got it kicked off the team. And I never forget, they called my mom and say, this boy gotta go. We accepted him on probation. We accepted him with all his baggage, and he gotta go. You guys, I was back in school doing stuff that I did in the streets. I was selling drugs again, carrying firearms, thinking that I'm in a neighborhood, but I'm really in college. Before he kicked me out, my mom told him he would be dead if you sent him back here. Please find him another school. The coach and my mom developed a relationship, found another school. I went to another school in Kansas. They took me on probation as well. I got there, and the first thing they said, you can't get in trouble. You're on probation. Your probation officer been talking to us. We have to do a transfer and all this stuff here. And when I got there, I thought it was over, but residue followed me again. I began to do the same exact thing because that's all I knew. I converted right back to finding out what to do in the streets there, sell drugs, carry a firearm, and I got arrested. I went to trial again. I was facing 15 years for being accused of doing a drive-by shooting and having a shootout with other teammates that was on the team. And I never forget that probation officer, he was so hurt. And I didn't know he violated me. because I told him I'm innocent, and if you give me a chance to go to trial, I'll show you, but it was only so much he can do. So I went home on break, and I got pulled over, and I got arrested for violation of probation. And as I was incarcerated, I feel like I let everybody down, but I told people I needed help because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just didn't know. I just couldn't break free, you guys. And a lot of times you would never understand, because being incarcerated and being in the streets, it converts you. It gives you that fake ID, and you get comfortable because you spent so many years being that way and around those type of things that I couldn't break free. My purpose was heading to the graveyard, and I didn't even know it. My dad and my mom say, we're tired. And I said, give me one more chance, Dad. Mom, bond me out. I can go down and prove that these charges are dropped. My mom and dad bond me out, and I hurry up and flew back down to Kansas, brought the charges back to show that I had one trial and dropped it. My probation officer, he was pulling for me, even though I had made a mistake, even though I had let him down. And they reinstated me because of him. And I would not have been here today if it wasn't him believing in me. And you guys, it don't have to be football. It could be an entrepreneur. It could be a taxi driver. It could be whatever, but he believed in me. And all I needed was one person other than my parents to believe in me, and he believed in me. And I went back to school. I won trial. The coaches say, you'll never touch this field again. You can get your education. They say, but you'll never touch this football field again. And I had a 0.1 grade point average. They say, you need to focus on your grades. I say, really? So I picked my GPA up to a 3.2, talking back and forth with my probation officer. I also couldn't go in the weight room. The coaches never spoke to me again. People on campus never talked to me because they knew who I was from the little town and then on TV. But one person did, a janitor. And I walked through the hallway the same way every time by myself, because I'd walk away from people because they wouldn't speak or nothing. And she said, young man, could you come here for a minute? I say, yes, because nobody talks to me. She say, I see a light over your head. Every time you walk this way, I see a light over your head. God told me to tell you you're going to change the world and you're going to change this team in no time. I say, ma'am, I don't know who you listening to, but I'm finna go to trial and it don't look good. This is my second trial and I'm facing 15 years and it's next week. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not even on the team. The coaches won't even speak to me. I can't even go to the weight room. They shut the door in my face. And she said, I don't know, but this is what God told me to tell you. You're gonna change the world and you're gonna change this team. She said, will you go to church with me and hang out with me a little bit? So I say that to guys because it wasn't a coach that mentored me. It was a janitor, a woman, a janitor that mentored me all those weeks and all the time before I went to trial. I went to trial, you guys, and I won. She continued to mentor me. When them coaches had a chance to mentor me, but they didn't see a diamond once again, she mentored me through everything that I was going through internally and why I kept going back and forth to the streets, but still trying to fight of making right decisions. I ended up getting back on the team. I ended up taking that team to the national championship. I ended up being a Heisman Trophy winner of junior college. I got inducted to the Junior College Hall of Fame. I was All-American of that team, number one recruit in the nation, getting recruited by Florida State. And that was in 1 year, just like she said. Scored 6 touchdowns in one game, broke a record. And when she told me that, it changed my life. And look what I'm doing now. I have programs all across the world, mentoring youth, curriculums all across the world, books all across the world. I'm changing the world. So I want to say thank you to Miss Cheryl. And I want to challenge you guys, who would be the next Miss Cheryl? Who would be the next Miss Cheryl?
You know, this conference is really about what works in dealing with formerly incarcerated persons and persons under supervision. And sometimes probation officers think that the frequency of our contact is really going to be the big difference in someone's successful in supervision. But the experts tell us that the quality of our contact with people under supervision really makes an impact. Can you tell how the quality of your contact with your probation officer, the relationship that he had with you, affected your motivation to succeed?
Well, I think it was one of the deciding factors of what I was going to become. And yes, I continue to make bad mistakes. And I mean, I understand that there's a lot of guys that don't want to change. I mean, we get it. I mean, everybody's not going to want to change. Some people going to want to live that same life. And I think the most important thing for you is to understand that you have to really sit back and meditate and see this person for who they're trying to be. If they're not trying to be that, then I know you're trained very well to make your decisions accordingly. But I was one of those people that was trying so hard and I just didn't know how. And I had nobody to show me how. My mom and dad wasn't from the streets. They didn't understand none of that stuff. So I think my communication with my probation officer and how he displayed more love. And he was stern sometimes, don't get me wrong. He would treat me like my dad, and he would get in my face and tell me this, but when it was all over, he would say, but I got faith in you. I know you can make a difference. I know you can do what's right. I know it's in you, but it's up to you to make that decision. I can't make it for you. That's what I would say. The communication was great. The transformation was great because of how he treated me.
What was your expectation like? So the first time you got sentenced to probation, what did you think it was going to be like? And how did the reality compare to what you thought?
I heard all this stuff, like they're gonna treat you just like you're a prisoner. They're gonna treat you, still gonna treat you disrespectful, as if they're lording over you because they finally got some power. I heard so many things. Some of them don't know how to use their power. They think this is their way of getting back. If they're having a bad day, they're gonna take it out on you. I mean, I heard so much stuff. So I was already like, oh my goodness, am I gonna even make it? Or this person is gonna violate me if I make one mistake. So I was nervous, but he made me feel like there was hope. Like I didn't have no hope, you know, excuse me. I didn't.
Take your time.
I never did this before. I never broke down, but I didn't think I had hope. I just thought that here we go again. I'll be right back in here with you guys whenever it happens. And he gave me hope when I first got out. Even though I didn't know how to make good decisions, even though I didn't understand how to make good decisions, he gave me hope that I never had. And that was real important. He helped me put down that fake ID. He was the start of telling me how to put down that fake ID and pick up my real ID, because I am somebody. I can be somebody. And you don't get that. Your neighborhood and everything tells you that you're nobody and you're gonna stay in this circle and you're gonna stay coming back and forth and you're gonna stay behind bars. And those bars was holding me back until I found somebody that was willing to take a key and stick it in there and say, I don't want you to go back. I want you to live a good life. I want you to make good decisions, and I'll do my best to help you.
Thank you. Frank, tell us a little bit about, based on your probation experience, there's always these competing things going on. The streets on one side and your probation officer on the other. How did the probation officer use the structure of probation and creating that hope for you that you could be successful to help you break free of the streets?
You guys, you have such a, it's not easy. And I know this, and man, I really appreciate everybody that takes this position and takes this opportunity and takes this job, because I know it's not easy, because the mindset of a lot of incarcerated young men and women is totally backwards from what you experience, because you have never been incarcerated. So how could we ask you to know how it feels? But being incarcerated is a mindset. It trains your mind and your decision making. So being incarcerated, then getting out and being in contact with now that probation officer, it comes down to, will you listen to my heart? Will you listen to what I'm seeking to do? Will you pay attention to my heart? Is your heart in heartbeat with mine? Or is it just, I'm gonna treat you like another guy with another number, or another woman with another number? Take the numbers off and give me my name back. My name is Frank D. Murphy. It's not 01752. It's Frank D. Murphy. And I'm only asking to be treated like a human being so I can see life one day. So I can understand that my community that I was in, the culture that I was in, it was brought upon me heavy and it was no way out. And I'm gonna tell you that if you make it out, man, it's a blessing. It's a jungle. It's hard to make it out when you walk out your door every day and all these things are around you and that's all you see, that's all you know. At some point, I didn't even know it was a beach and I stayed in Jacksonville, Florida. So I don't even know if I answered your question, I'm sorry. But yeah.
So as we're winding down, I really want, I want the audience and those listening, whether you're in probation or you're just a person like that janitor, like Miss Shirley, give us 3 things that we need to bring to our practice that will help individuals like you change your mindset.
Number one, when you first meet somebody, your first impression is everything. And I would say come across the way you want to see us, not who we are right then. I mean, the way you would hope and you would pray that this individual that's sitting in front of you, that you're getting ready to be their probation officer, how do you want to see them? And that's the way you should treat them. It's almost like having a kid. You know that kid's gonna make a lot of mistakes, but you stay there with that kid. And I understand sometimes you have to do something different, but I'm saying if you can, stay there with that kid long as you can, and your first impression is everything. The second thing is give that person hope. You may spend 15 minutes talking to that person about goals. Some people don't even know how to write down 3 goals. Maybe having a system in your pocket and saying, you know what, the first thing I'm gonna do is do this. The second thing I'm gonna do is give them goals to do. The third thing I'm gonna do is teach them how to make better decisions. So maybe educating yourself on how to be that mini life coach to them. The last thing, forgive. You have to forgive us. Because the position that we're in, a lot of times, you guys, we didn't ask to be in it. I have friends that grew up in the house with a crack mom. They didn't eat, and I used to have to feed them. I used to tell them to come to my house at 6 o'clock every evening. My mama cooking, she'll never know. Just knock on the door at 6, and you could eat with her. She'll never turn you down. I had a long line wrapped around a cone of kids. My mama say, what is going on? Why these kids come over here at 6 o'clock every day? I was like, I don't know. And you have to be that gateway. And if you do that and forgive, you'll see opportunity after opportunity, because we as kids did not deserve to be put in a household like that, where we wake up every day and look at our moms, and not my mom in particular, but they have to look at moms that's on crack. They watch her do crack. They watch her sell her body. And that's what takes place. And that's traumatizing. So that young man walks outside. He's against the world. Imagine that. He's angry already because he have no mom and she did all this before him. And the only way he see out to help his mom is sell drugs so he can get her something to eat because she's laying on the floor, or get her in a better neighborhood. We take on a fatherhood type mentality at the age of 12, 13, and 14. And see, if you don't know that, you don't know what we're dealing with. It's real out there. It's not just what you hear on TV. This is real life that young men and young women are facing every day. And you guys are the first opportunity for us to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for being here, and mostly thank you, Frank, for sharing the space with us and telling us about your experience. I'm reminded of our Dr. Shirley that started this conference, who said, we are the pathway from hope to change. And I think that Frank and his story and all the work he put in is the perfect example of that. So thank you again. A round of applause, please.
Thank you.
I can change the world. Feed one, teach one born